There are a lot of features in Lightroom that deserve that extra attention, so I figured I'd share with you 3 features that I think fit the bill and how you can use them to elevate your photos and your editing. Graduated filter, or grad filter for short. M on your keyboard, you can rotate the filter, and after you add a filter you can of course change the size of it. Let's start by adding a grad filter on the pole in the foreground of this image. I will make it darker. I will show you one thing. If you have a previous filter selected when you add a new filter, it will inherit the settings, which could be really helpful if you want to add multiple filters with the same settings. I want to darken the front of the street of this tram. So I'll add a grad filter. Here's the first problem. When we add the grad filter, you will add that on top of the pole, which means that part of the pole will be much darker. And the way to solve this is to click on the brush. Press Alt on your keyboard to take away on the filter. I will then click once, hold Shift, click twice to get a perfectly straight line between the 2 points, which is very helpful when masking, for example, a pole like this. And just by magic, we don't have 2 grad filters stacked on each other. I also feel that we should darken the sky, so I will add another grad filter and I will line that up against the angles of the buildings. I will add some basic settings. And the purpose of the grad filters, gradually leading into the tram. I also want to darken the right side of the street to ensure that we still just have the tram. But once again, we will have filters on filter. So you guessed it, I'll click on brush, I'll keep Alt pressed, and I will start to take away from my grad filter. I also need to ensure that I don't let the grad filter influence the tram, so I need to unmask that as well by holding Alt and Shift. That way I will have perfectly straight lines. And I will also take away on the sky, because we don't want that sort of being a filter on a filter. Did you see that? I will just add a fast adjustment brush on top of the tram so I can affect that, because I want that to pop just a little bit. The grad filter is just to help us draw the focus into the tram, but then we also need to edit the tram. So I'll keep Alt pressed to take away on the shadows. I will make some adjustment to make the tram pop. So with almost only grad filters, we make the tram the center of the focus. I think that looks really good, but I'm not entirely happy. One thing we could do is actually to sort of lighten up the rail on the shadow. Then I can click on my filter and make it a little bit darker, and I will finalize this edit with one last grad filter. Just look on the before and after. I think it looks amazing. That was grad filter for you, and I hope you really enjoyed it. I previously did a video about my 3 favorite features in Lightroom. If you haven't checked that video out, I will link it in the description, and I'll add a card here as well. And I think you should check that out. It interlinks with this video, especially with the adjustment brushes. A question I get asked a lot is cropping for Instagram. Is it still square? Should it be 4:5? And what about that 9.16? And how do you actually split one landscape photo into 2 images for Lightroom? I'll show you. The crop overlay, or the crop tool, actually has a lot of hidden features that most people don't get to use. So I thought I'd show you the most important. The first one is angle, and it is as it sounds. You just drag out an angle. It's very helpful, for example, when cropping horizons in landscape. Most commonly used, I think, are the presets. But you can also press X on your keyboard to rotate the crop overlay from landscape to portrait. If you want to add a custom, so if you want to crop a landscape image into 2 parts in Instagram, it would be 8:5, right? Or 16:10, which is a preset in the Instagram. So I'm going to choose that. But here we will start to look into some of the magic in the crop overlay that a lot of people are not using. If you hit O on your keyboard, you can toggle between a lot of different preset crop overlays, which will help you sort of decide how to crop. And some of these overlays even have different settings. Press Shift and O, you can toggle the toggle. Yeah, I know, it's mind-blowing. So with that in mind, I will toggle to various different types of overlays just to ensure that I feel that I have the best possible position of my crop overlay. That felt good. I'll press enter to crop. And all these overlays are in the menu, so you can see them here. The crop overlay. And here are the names of them. and here you see the shortcuts, the O and the Shift O. Maybe you don't want to use all of the crop overlays. Then in cycle options, you can just toggle on and off what you want to use. Now when we crop the image, we're gonna use some grad filters again. So I mean, the obvious one is on the left side. I'll just add that filter to ensure that sort of emphasize the shadows. And I'll add a second grad filter from the right side, just to squeeze some focus into the center. And just as previously, we don't want to have filters on top of filters unless on purpose. So I just need to unmask the third overlay filter. And just that quickly, we turn this image into a cropped masterpiece with some nice grad filter overlays. Once I started to grasp layering in editing, like a filter on top of a filter with a brush, I felt that Lightroom became something different, and I feel that my photo editing skills just went to a different level. How do you feel about it? Let's switch image, and I will show you the last feature for this video. So in the last image, we're also going to use all three features. Let's start with doing some basic crop. I want to do a center focused crop on this one. So I switch to the crop overlay, toggling O until I have the tram driver in the center. And now we're going to use the spot removal tool, or Q, on your keyboard. And even if it's called spot, you don't actually have to click spot. You can keep your mouse pressed, drag out larger areas. And once you have dragged an area, you can move from where you want to fetch, or you can drag where you want the target to end up. That way you can make adjustments after you have added a spot removal. Finally, I want to get rid of this road sign in the foreground. Don't try to get rid of the entire object in one go. Rather try to sort of find an area you want to remove by looking at an area you can fetch from. That will make it much easier. When we are repairing areas like this and using the spot removal, you need to watch out for hard lines and patterns, because that's what the eye will notice mostly. So ensure you fix the lines first. We can always fix small blemishes later. So I just keep going, sort of trying to participate where I will have a line to fetch from, and then patch it with the spot removal. Once I fixed all the lines, I start to focus on getting rid of the rest of the sign. And I think that it's just finding the proper sort of asphalt. Yeah, I think it looks better to go from the right side on this one, and I just need to do some final adjustment. So if you look at like this final spot, I have a lot of sort of pavement I know will look the same, so I can use a larger area. But we will have a small problem with this white road mark. So I'll add to where I want to sort of fix, and then I can just drag the spot removal retrieval part to the other white road mark. That way we get the sharper end of it. And then I just patch on top of it. And you might think, well, this doesn't look perfect. Yeah, but I want to post this on Instagram, so it doesn't have to look perfect. So there's actually no reason to spend 30 minutes to make this a perfect retouch example, because nobody's gonna know. I want to add a grad filter on top of this. We want to darken the foreground. Not only will we draw the focus to the tram, which of course is the centerpiece of this photography, but we will also hide any imperfections from our spot removal. I'll add a second grad filter to finalize the foreground to help sort of draw the eyes into the tram. And we will add a third grad filter to darken the sky and desaturate it a little bit. And just as we previously have used, I'm going to use the adjustment brush to sort of mask off the tram so I can make local adjustments to the tram. And if you notice, actually in the window of this tram driver, he does the V sign to us when he drives past. So of course we need to sort of emphasize this. So I'm actually going to add a second layer of adjustment on top of the window just to make the driver sort of the hero of this shot. I'm going to finalize with the spot removal just to remove some small blemishes that I think draws attention to the overall story of this photography. I really hope this video gave you some new knowledge about Lightroom. I really hope you got some new ideas on your photo editing skills. Which features did you enjoy the most? Do you want me to cover any specific feature in an upcoming video? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Until next time.